the World Nomads Podcast bonus episode. Hear amazing nomads sharing their knowledge, stories, and experience of world travel.
Well, thank you for tuning into this special, pretty much spontaneous episode of the podcast in which we're going to announce the winners of our competition, Flip My Trip.
Yeah, look, we launched the competition in May, just this year, 2019, asking the question, have you had an adventure that was memorable for all the wrong reasons? In 100 words or less, we received 21,971 entries.
Woo. Now, whether you had to miss out on the adventure of a lifetime or cut your trip short, we wanted to give you and a friend a return ticket and just help write a new ending to your travel tale.
So we called the winners asking to record their story because they were so good and we were going to feature them on the podcast. They had no idea they'd won.
So the first call we made was to Mike from the US, who had a sliding doors moment with a Rachel.
Yes, yeah, it was maybe a little less funny at the time, but in retrospect, it's grown funnier. I randomly I got on this date with a girl named Rachel who lived on the other side of the country from me, and we kept in touch via text and WhatsApp and trying to decide when we could meet each other again. And it just so happened I was going to be in Scotland for work, and we decided to have our second date as be a trip to Scotland, and it was a disaster. So that's as one might expect. Maybe I may have been a little naive going into it, but I figured worst case scenario, we would decide we weren't right for each other and just enjoy a fun trip together. And as it happened, she lost her job on I think the second day of the trip, and sort of went into a spiral of negative emotions that shall we say, didn't do well for the trip. So it started awkwardly and ended even more awkwardly.
Scotland's a great destination, so you must have had lots of great plans.
Yeah, we had had a couple of days in Edinburgh, and then we were driving up north of the Highlands, stopping in Glencoe, and then had a couple of days on Isle of Skye. And started out okay, and then I think once she got the news about her employment situation,
just shut up, Mike! I lost my job. Just shut up. This sucks.
Yeah, there was. I would have even been okay with some stronger emotion, but I think that she just basically stayed in bed, and we had this beautiful day on Isle of Skye that was hikes and whiskey tasting and all this fun stuff planned, and I think stayed in bed and drew the curtains and was there the whole time while I went off and tried to make the best of it on my own.
If I'd lost my job, I think whiskey tasting is the first thing I'd do.
Yeah, Mike, did I tell you I could have run that company that saved me?
Exactly. So, that's you think you want to make the best of it, but it didn't work out that way, unfortunately, for her.
Yeah, all right. Well, it didn't work out for you and Rachel, but what happened a few months later?
Well, so as it happens, I got back home to Portland where I live, and a few months later met a different Rachel, and I was a little hesitant at first because I wasn't sure if maybe my luck with Rachel's wasn't so good, but this one turned out to be great, and we've been together now I think 7 or 8 months now, and so
Mike, are you living in an episode of Friends? You have too many Rachels.
It's funny that it's sort of like I think when you buy a new car or something, and then suddenly you see that car everywhere. Maybe you have a bad experience with Rachel, and then all of a sudden there's Rachel.
Okay, no. Are you sure? Do you want us to edit that comment out before new Rachel hears that you've compared her to a car?
No. I'm sure. Yeah.
New Rachel can cope. Old Rachel might not have been able to cope.
And you haven't been back to Scotland? You haven't?
No, I have not, and would love would love to do it with a more enthusiastic person who's happy to be there.
Well, good luck with that because we're sending you off.
Oh, wonderful!
No, mate. There's a catch. You have to catch up with old Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh no! I think we both blocked each other on social media.
Oh.
Well, you have got round trip airfare for two from STA Travel, $2,000 towards a tour of your choice, thanks to Tour Radar. Could be the whiskey tasting.
The whiskey tasting.
That'd go a long way, wouldn't it?
Totally.
$4,000 US spending money. That's from us, I believe. Very generous. Jeez.
Wait a minute.
Is that
Wait a minute.
400 or 500?
I need to chat about my KPIs here.
And US $2,000 towards accommodation costs, and we'll take care of your travel insurance should there be some sort of bust up and new Rachel has to go back. And,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we cover that, do we? Relationship breakdowns, Phil?
Tough question. Possibly.
Well, good luck to Mike and new Rachel, and I suspect, Phil, old Rachel would have found herself a new job by now.
Yeah, I wonder if she's listening. Send us a message, old Rachel. By the way, we got entries from 158 countries, including Mark from Canada.
So we were going to Kauai, Kauai and Maui in Hawaii. And some of the interesting background of this is that my in-laws were coming with us, and they're not big travelers, and they always express kind of a skepticism and like disapproval of us taking the kids on travel so often. But they've always been intrigued by Hawaii. So we surprised them by buying tickets for them to bring them along as an opportunity to show them, we're grown adults, we can do this. It's no problem.
Nice setup. I'm enjoying this already.
So, and then things really took a turn for the worst just on our very first flight. So we were flying from Ottawa to Toronto, which for you guys is the equivalent of flying from Sydney to Canberra, just a little bit longer than that. It's a 40-minute flight. And this guy was just complaining in one of the aisles nearby about having to check his baggage because there was no room on the flight. He couldn't get it in the overhead bin. So then he started raising his voice and speaking rudely to her to the point where she stormed off the plane. And we sat there for an hour longer, not knowing what was happening. And then they got on the PA system and said, "Yeah, sorry, folks, we're canceling the flight. We don't have sufficient staff to do this." And that was kind of the small little action that started the the chain of effects that lasted for 6 brutal days.
Right now, you're thinking this can't get any worse. But then...
Yeah, we're thinking, well, we'll get on the next flight. So the guy who started this whole thing was in the lineup in front of us. And he got on the flight that was leaving in an hour. The 6 of us got put on a flight that was leaving in 7.5 hours, which resulted in shifting everything back a whole day. So that kind of pushed things back from being an 18-hour flight with 2 kids to about 48 hours in total.
With the cynical in-laws.
Yes, with them saying, "Oh, this must happen all the time." So in the meantime, I'm thinking about, well, what's this going to affect? What's the chain reaction? We learned a lesson, don't book the fancy 3-bedroom condo on your first night of your trip because you might spend 2 nights not actually using it. We also had the issue in that we had made a car reservation for a minivan because we had 6 people and luggage. And so I called the car rental company since we had 7.5 hours to kill. Might as well get on that. and got into this argument of logic that is beyond definition where I was saying, okay, we're going to be arriving a day later, but we just want to make sure that our reservation's fine. We're not going to be no-shows. We're just getting there the next day. And then they're like, well, we don't have any reservations available for Saturday. So it's well, no, we don't want a reservation for Saturday. We're keeping this one. I'll pay it right now if you want. And they proceeded to say, "Oh no, we can't take your credit card over the phone. So, there's no cards available. Sorry." So
even though you had a car, you were just going to be a day late.
Yeah. So we're well, just imagine we paid for it right now and we're just going to park it in your parking lot for a day and we'll get it tomorrow. What's the issue? But anyway, that didn't work out. And so we were scrambling to find an alternate car at the last minute. And the only other thing that was available was a Lincoln Navigator that cost 4 times the price that would fit 6 people. So we ended up out of desperation booking 2 separate cars, realizing this is our only options to have to travel split apart.
Hey, now wait a minute. That's a good thing, right? You put the in-laws in one car, right?
I mean, that would be a good thing if either of them had brought their driver's license. But they were planning on being along for the ride. After all said and done, we get to Kauai around 3 a.m. We plead with them, is there any other vehicle that can fit the 6 of us? We spend an hour there, and then they come back. It's oh yeah, we found this SUV. It's not great. You have to kind of like climb over the seats. So my 70-year-old father-in-law was trying to climb over the seats to get to the back. We're all carrying luggage in our cases, but we roll into our condo around 3 a.m. and like, okay, now we can get the vacation started. Of course, after 48 hours of traveling, we were pretty low on supplies. So first thing on the agenda is to go get some groceries, and the car doesn't start. So we call the number on there. They come, they send a guy to jumpstart it. He does that. It's running. We're like, okay, well, do we have to like drive it around or anything now? He's like, no, as long as it starts now, it'll be fine. So we run in. We're like, okay, we'll grab a bite to eat before we go out. We've got there were some ramen noodles in the condo covered, and eat that, go back out, and it doesn't start again. So we have to call again. They tow us all the way back to the airport, which is like an hour drive away. And the one good side that came out of this is that in the next day there was a minivan that became available. So we were able to at least get a minivan from that. 5 hours later, we get back to the condo. We're able to do groceries. My wife tops things off by, as we're walking out, dropping the full container of 4 liters of milk on the ground, and it explodes over everybody in the parking lot. And at this point, she's on the verge of tears, and someone comes and says, "Don't cry over spilled milk."
Yeah.
And she was ready to stab them, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But so moving on, it's now day 4, and we're able to start our vacation. So, the principal things we travel to do is like the surf and the scuba dive. That's our favorite thing. And I don't know if you know anything about Ottawa, but it's like 8 hours from an ocean. So it's not really a great spot for it here. So all our vacations are centered around that. So I went surfing the first day. I told my wife, I got to rent a board. I got this brilliant plan. I'll put my wallet, driver's license, and everything I'll need to do the rental in my zippered pocket, and I'll attach it to my my board shorts loop. Yeah, that turned out she was right, and I lost all my credit cards and driver's license that day. So the next day, we decided to try again, go back to the surf break, and that's when kind of like the icing or the big item occurred, where just like not even a great story. It wasn't like I was surfing like a double overhead barrel or anything. It was like a waist-high wave. I tried to avoid running over a kid. My board snapped out, hit the end of the leash, and snapped back, cracked me in the side of the face. I reached up to feel my head, and there was a giant cavern there. And that's when I realized, I need help, and I better get to a hospital, and maybe I'm going to have to end the trip right now and fly home, because I've heard about people going bankrupt over healthcare costs in the USA. And that's if they'll even let me fly. So anyway, the good thing about that is that all it cost was $1,000 in x-rays. They determined that the bones were broken in like 3 places in my skull, and that they would probably have to do surgery to fix it, but that they'd have to wait till the swelling went down anyways. So so they're like, it'd be kind of borderline from when you guys are going to leave anyways. So if you wait a few extra days and then go straight to the hospital and get home, it's probably not the end of the world. So,
right.
So anyway, I got a pretty wicked scar on my head now as a souvenir from that trick, from where they went into my skull and fixed my face.
Oh.
There were other little things like losing my glasses as well, and we got locked inside of the swimming pool because we stayed after 9 a.m. and had to
after the curfew, we didn't realize we were going to be locked inside a gated pool area. So
we worked together with other people who were stuck in to create this kind of makeshift ladder rather than paying a $250 rescue fee.
So what were your in-laws saying by this stage? Surgery required, no prescription glasses.
They're like, we're never traveling with you again.
My mom was like, does this always happen to you guys? Like what's going on? They were kind of shocked at all the multiple things that were happening every day.
And what's your name? Mark joined us.
Sorry, I am Pollyanna. I'm Mark's wife.
Pollyanna. That's such a nice name, and so not what you'd expect from Pollyanna on a holiday.
No, exactly.
But does it always happen to you? Do you actually have trips that don't go wrong like that?
Like, we've had lots of trips where we've had one thing go wrong, or lost baggage, or major cancellations and delays. But this is the one where everything kept happening.
Yeah.
Like one day to the next, there was something new that just topped the previous one.
I'm feeling pretty bad about this because, like you sound like a bad insurance risk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is bad news for us because we're actually going to be covering your travel insurance when we send you to Flip Your Trip. You are among the winners.
Oh my God. That is so amazing.
Congratulations, guys. I wanted to direct you to one of the podcasts we did with the honeymooners who, when they go on holidays, everything stuffs up. So you must listen to them. But you have got round trip airfare for two from STA Travel, $2,000 towards a tour of your choice with Tour Radar, $4,000 in spending money, and $2,000 towards accommodation costs in US. And as Phil said very reluctantly, we will cover your insurance
from World Nomads.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
And I'd be leaving the in-laws at home to look after the kids.
Absolutely. Now, our final winner is Sam from the US, who's currently in the middle of a road trip across the states. But he pulled over to the side of the road, literally, to take our call. And his entry, by the way, isn't quite as funny as the others.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't funny, although it makes a good story afterwards.
So, Sam, tell us what happened. You were trying to get to Colombia. From where?
Yeah, so a little backstory. I was working in Panama for 3 years at the time with the U.S. Peace Corps, so doing community development work. And I had just finished my service and decided to go travel around South America a little ways. So I wanted to travel like the locals and take the boat from Panama to Colombia. That's the boat that runs along the Panamanian coast, along the Pacific Ocean.
Big boat, little boat?
Imagine a banana boat. So it's probably, 20, 25 meters long. Yeah, not big by any standards.
Well, I admire the fact that you wanted to travel like the locals do, but it didn't turn out that well for you.
Well, I've been living like the locals, so in the context of the times, it seemed perfectly appropriate.
So what happened? It sank.
It sank, yeah, to put it bluntly. But, yeah, I guess we're sailing under bad auspices. It was a stormy day, and after about an hour crossing after we left the harbor, we are leaving. There's an island chain, the Pearl Islands, that protect the harbor of Panama on its way towards Colombia. And as soon as we got past that island chain, the ocean just turned violent. Waves crashing over the top. I mean, wind and rain coming in sideways. A couple of times, the boat was tilting so much that I feel like another 20 pounds on one side or another, and it would have flipped over right there. At that point, the captain made a call. The bilge pump that takes the water out of the hull of the boat had started acting up. It quit extracting water. So he made the call to turn around and head back towards Panama City. And as we're going back, this time we're going a lot slower because we're sitting lower in the water. And it takes us about 2 hours, about 7:30 at night. So sun has already gone down when the bilge pump broke again. And we realized that we won't be able to get into land. So at that point, we're just kind of stranded in the water. And, that's when a wave came up. It was the last one that the boat could handle. And that's what rolled it over.
Oh, my
That must have been incredibly scary.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a whitewater rafting guide. So in the moment, my rafting instincts kind of took over. And so when a raft, inflatable raft is about to flip, you shout high side and you try to jump to the high side of the boat to hold it down. Well, silly me, I thought about doing the exact same thing. So in English, I shout out high side, climb up to the railing as it's flipping. Yeah, it doesn't work the same on a 50-foot boat.
So why did you enter then Flip My Trip?
I got the email, saw the email prompt and thought, oh man, well, I got a great answer to that.
Did you ever manage to get to Colombia or?
Oh, I did eventually. We were in the ocean for about 5 hours. We finally got picked up, brought into land, and I was able to recuperate, borrow some money, and I went on with my trip. But by that point, I had nothing more than a backpack someone had lent me, a pair of clothes they had lent me, and the same clothes I'd been wearing when the ship actually sank. So I did lose everything. So I made it through Colombia, but in a very different manner than I thought I would.
Would you like to do it again in a more less dramatic fashion?
Well, I kind of figure that how many times can one person be in a shipwreck in their life? So hopefully all my bad luck is behind me.
Well, all right.
Funny you say that.
Will you do me a favour? If you don't go by boat, if you promise to go some other way, can we tell you that you're one of the winners of Flip My Trip and we want to send you back to Colombia? Would that be okay?
Oh, man, that's awesome. I can't believe it. All right, but yeah, I guess I could fly this time. That makes you feel any better.
Well, you do have international flights for two, thanks to STA Travel. You've got $2,000 US spending money. Oh, no, actually.
Whoa.
You've got $2,000 from Tour Radar for tours. You've got $2,000 for accommodation, and you've got $4,000 spending money and free travel insurance as long as you don't get go by boat.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I can't believe it. Oh, man, I'm so excited.
Yeah, you've got some planning to do on the rest of this road trip.
I know, man. I got something exciting to look forward to. Just got to figure out what kind of grand adventure I want to go on next.
Who are you going to call?
Thank you so much, guys.
Who are you going to call now? Who are you going to ring and tell?
Oh, well, I got to think for a moment. Because the first person I call is probably the person that's going to come with me on the trip as well. So that's a tough question.
Have some fun sorting that out and planning your Flip My Trip. Congratulations, Sam.
Oh, man, thank you so much, guys.
Well, congratulations to our three winners and a big thanks to everyone who entered, 21,000 entries. It was a tough task judging.
To get in touch with us, email podcast@worldnomads and listen to our episodes by grabbing them from wherever you get your favourite podcasts. It's a great place to hear all the things World Nomads is up to, like Flip My Trip.
Yep. And do subscribe so that way you don't miss an episode. And we also encourage you to rate and share. See you next week as we explore Belize.
Bye.
Amazing Nomads. Be inspired.